Chen Hao, known as the most outstanding graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology in a century, had just returned to China and wanted to start a business. Unexpectedly, with a ding sound, his fate changed ding. The growth system of a prestigious school has been successfully bound. System task. Please hold a university. Chen Hao. I just graduated with a PhD, so I was asked to become the president of a university. And I'm on the verge of bankruptcy. Photon screen. Photon chip. MR smart glasses. Vacuum super high speed rail. Flying cars. Controllable nuclear fusion. A groundbreaking technology has emerged in this university. Rewrite the technological landscape and lead the Industrial Revolution, starting with Guanghua University in the summer of 2020. Principals writing, Academic Excellence in Science and Technology, single female lead. Book Friend Group. 181062463, keywords of the novel. I am the president of a university without a pop-up window, I am the president of a university. Download the complete TXT collection, and read the latest chapters when I am the president of a university. Chapter 1. The Growth System of Famous Schools. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Growth System of Famous Schools. June 21, 1020, Summer. The Northern Federation, located in the countryside of Heston, the capital of the state of Neo-de-Zhu. Actually, it's in Johnny City next to Heston, the world's top 1 university. Kaishan Institute of Technology, QIT. For students of Kaishan Technology, this day is a very solemn and sacred day. Lidoan open-air courtyard, with a prominent large dome at the top of the building, adjacent to Building 10 of the main building, named after the 10th principal. And this landmark building is usually used as the venue for graduation ceremonies. The graduation ceremony lasted from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dad and Mom, why don't you go back first? Mr. Leonard has something to ask me for. Okay, then we'll go back first. After the man finished speaking, he looked at the son in front of him with a touch of emotion, wearing a doctoral uniform and a square hat, who had perfectly inherited his handsome appearance, and for a moment, tears welled up in his eyes. Dad, why are you still crying? Chen Hao's face was somewhat moved, as it turned out that his usually carefree father would also be moved to tears at his graduation ceremony. Sure enough, father's love is introverted and difficult to speak. Hiss. Chen Wenxuan grinned and complained, why are you crying? Your mother pinched my waist. It hurts so much that tears are coming out of my eyes. Chen Hao's face suddenly collapsed. Just now, a picture of father's kindness and filial piety came to my mind, and I overthought emotions. Xiaohao said let's go first. Why are you grinding and chirping in such hot weather? Chen's mother's words made the two father and son tremble, but it also made sense. The Heston area is located on the northeast coast of the Northern Federation, and although summer is not very hot, it is still noon at this moment, and the son-grandfather is very proud. Chen Wenxuan coughed and tried to save face by patting Chen Hao's shoulder twice. I know you have your own ideas, just let go and do it. Your dad will always support you. It seemed like he didn't encourage enough, so Chen Wenxuan thought for a moment and added. It's okay if we fail. Although our family is not a wealthy family, we still have a few 100 billion yuan worth of assets. If we can't do it, we'll come back and inherit the family business. Chen Hao. Dad, I think Mom is really right. It's better if you don't say it. The sunlight shone on the square hat, even though some shadows obscured part of the face, the calm confidence was difficult to conceal. I have grown up, not just a little baby anymore, and with just your little money, I might not be interested in it in a few years. Ha ha ha, it's your father's seed. Kid, I'll wait for that day. Chen Wenxuan laughed heartily, and a hint of pride flashed in his eyes. What's your seed? It's clearly mine. Before Chen's father could maintain his image for 10 seconds, he was dragged away by his mother. Looking at his parents who were extremely affectionate, Chen Hao's lips twitched. My mother didn't seem to say a few words throughout the journey, just a few steps away. After turning her hair around, Chen Hao still stood in place and awkwardly shouted. Xiaohao, the sun is so bright. Don't make Mr. Leonard wait too long, go ahead. Chen Hao couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth, nodded, and in the moment he turned around, his smile could no longer be tense, as warm as the sun above his head. He knew that behind him, his father and mother were watching him leave hand in hand. And it must be a very proud and happy smile. Because he is their pride. Office of the President of Caixin Institute of Technology. When Principal Mosley Leonard's female assistant knocked on the door and walked in, she felt the atmosphere that was so solemn that it suffocated her. She awkwardly raised her hand and said, "What would you like to drink, gentlemen?" "Judith, give me a hot American." "Sorry, we don't need it at the moment." Chen Hao smiled faintly at the female assistant and said, "A latte, thank you." After the three of them finished speaking, the female assistant breathed a sigh of relief and quickly fled the office with a task of 2 cups of coffee. After the door is closed. Maurice Leonard, sitting behind his desk, glanced at his old friend Stephen, his white beard slightly bulging. "Hey, my old buddy, are you speaking or am I speaking?" Professor Stephen, sitting next to him, who is over 60 years old, is wearing a finely crafted suit and a pair of thick black glasses. His gray and white hair is spreading upwards from his temples. Stephen shook his head and responded to Leonard, "Sorry, I think I already know the result. If you still want to say it, you should come." Leonard let out a silent sigh. He didn't know what Stephen meant by his words. But sometimes, even though you know the answer, you still have to give it a try. Leonard took off his golden glasses and looked at Chen Hao with bright and deep blue eyes. He said in a deep voice, "Chen, you are the smartest student in our century at QIT. If it weren't for you obtaining 4 doctoral degrees, today's graduation ceremony would have been 2 years earlier." Chen Hao's undergraduate and doctoral studies were all conducted at Caixin Institute of Technology. The education system in the Northern Federation is lenient and strict, but as the world's #1, Caixin Institute of Technology has a talent admission rate of only 7%, with a 4-year graduation rate of 81% and a 5-year graduation rate of 91.3%. As for obtaining a PhD from Caixin Institute of Technology, it is even more difficult. In theory, it takes 4 years to graduate, but in reality, those who graduate in 5 years are already among the top performers, generally concentrated in 6.8 years. In 8 years, completed the heavenly STEM and obtained 4 doctoral degrees. This is Chen Hao's record. After discussion, the school has decided that as long as you are willing to stay, you can be granted a lifelong teaching position and the authority to independently establish a research group. Leonard earnestly requested. Even the world's #1 university, Caixin Institute of Technology, failed to retain Chen Hao, which was a huge loss. "Dear Mr. Leonard, my purpose of studying is to one day return to serve my ancestral home." Chen Hao's smile remained on, so my answer is, no. Leonard's eyelids twitched as he listened to Chen Hao's words, and his tone couldn't help but become somewhat urgent. Only in the Northern Federation can you have the space and possibility to showcase your talents. You're still young, you shouldn't let yourself be confined to the East. Stay, Chen. The glory of QIT will become even more brilliant because of you, please. Professor Stephen, who was Chen Hao's mentor on the side, had already let out a long sigh. As for Chen Hao, he didn't get angry after hearing Leonard's words. He knew that the old man valued him very much and had no ill intentions. And his attitude remains very distinct. "Mr. Leonard, perhaps you have a certain point, but my determination to return to Dafeng will not change. In my ancestral home, I can do anything. If I want, I can go plant apples and become a gardener." Leonard also knew that things couldn't be done, and the last bit of luck in his heart disappeared from Chen Haogang's words. God, please forgive me, I have done my best. Leonard, who fell into silence, stopped speaking. Chen Hao had to turn his head to look at Professor Stephen beside him, the man who held an indelible position in his heart. With his lips slightly open, he whispered, Professor Stephen, I have gained today's knowledge because of your teachings. Professor Stephen shook his head and said, from this moment on, you are no longer my student. Chen Hao held his breath and looked straight at the other person. Professor Stephen stood up, his chest slightly blocked, but more proud. You are already an internationally renowned scientist. I will be proud of you. Chen Hao had a slightly sour nose and slightly red eyes, and hugged Professor Stephen. Your encouragement to me surpasses any award. Thank you, my beloved teacher. Before leaving, Chen Hao bowed very solemnly to Professor Stephen and Principal Leonard. Close the door. The sound of leather shoes coming into contact with the smooth ground echoed slightly crisp in the quiet corridor. The closer you get to the entrance, the stronger the sunlight. Goodbye, QIT. Chen Hao took the final step out of the office building. Outside, welcoming him, will be a broader world. 7 days later. Heston Logan International Airport. A Baijiu Island Airlines plane from Dafeng took off from the ground. Destination: Baijiu Island. Sitting in the first-class cabin, gazing out the window at the shrinking city. The Heston metropolitan area is large, but he still can't stay. Although Baijiu Island is small, it is his hometown. At this moment, a sentence suddenly came to his mind. Suppressing his inner excitement, he trembled and read aloud. Going to the West, I am well aware of the great pursuit of self-improvement, and I have no other choice but to abandon it. Carrying the future of my country and learning from the science of foreigners, I will travel a long distance of 70,000 miles to bid farewell to my ancestral home and my mother's country, and have no regrets. More than 100 years ago, at that time, Dafeng was still a prefecture state that was subjected to arbitrary humiliation by Western powers. In order to find a way to save the country, Dafeng sent the first batch of government officials to study abroad in Western countries. Today, over 100 years later, as a student studying in the United States, Chen Hao. He's going back to the embrace of his ancestors. Dafeng, Yizhou, Baijiu Island. Yihua University, founded in 988, is a private undergraduate institution. Dafeng is the first private university since the founding of the People's Republic of China and the only private university with a university suffix. But now, the school gate presented in front of Chen Hao, as well as the stone tablet with the name of Yihua University printed on it, is somewhat old, with rust stains on it, severe damage to the corners, and even the red paint of the character, Hua, is almost faded. Looking at the three characters, Yihua University, from a distance, there is a hint of mockery, as if telling that this is a bare university. Chen Hao took off his sunglasses and gazed at this monument, unable to help but recall the beautiful memories of his childhood. Clench your fist tightly. The anger in my heart is almost bursting out. Has the first private university in Dafeng, which shocked both domestic and international audiences, now fallen into this predicament? Just the entrance is already like this, I'm afraid it will be even worse inside. Chen Hao remained calm and glanced at the gatekeeper playing with his phone. He walked in without saying a word. The building is still the same as it was 8 years ago. If you want to change it, it is becoming more and more dilapidated. These buildings adopt a combination of ancient and modern styles, and were very rare in the 1980s. But because it has not been maintained for 8 years, it becomes increasingly like a dangerous building. A dilapidated teaching complex. A grassland with weeds almost half a meter high. Countless garbage on the Chuzhen Lake. The cafeteria, library, and dormitory building with locked doors. Chen Hao, who was trying to figure it out, was given a cold shoulder. Chen Hao touched his nose. Has the school's academic atmosphere been so bad? In theory, there are usually many people staying at Tiangong University for postgraduate entrance examination and review. The better the school, the more people there are staying. This is the first time Chen Hao has seen a university without anyone staying. The campus of Yihua University is very large, covering a total area of over 5,000 acres, with only over 3,000 acres of actual land. The location is not considered remote, adjacent to Baijiu Island North Station, located in Linggao Town, Moji District, Baijiu Island City. Because he hadn't returned for too long, Chen Hao arrived at his final destination with the help of the signs inside the campus. Chen Qingxing's tomb. All the stones in the cemetery are top-notch, with finely crafted grass and flowers on both sides. Stepping over 100 steps, it is a spacious square with a tomb at the innermost part. Chen Qingxing is Chen Hao's grandfather, who used to be the sugar industry king of Nandongju. At the end of the 10th century, a warlord stirred up the business world in the southeast. As a Chinese-American university that devoted its later years of effort, Chen Qingxing requested to be buried in the school before his death. Even if he dies, he still has to watch the rise of American Chinese universities. Or perhaps fearing that future generations would sell the school to unfilial children, they decided to personally guard it here. In front of the tomb, when Chen Hao knelt down and tapped his head 3 times, he suddenly felt a burning sensation in his thighs and couldn't help but scream. Chen Hao took out the burning object from his pocket, which was an irregular stone. A small piece that looks a bit like a meteorite on the outside. Just at this moment, the white light was constantly on. Fortunately it was not obvious during the day, but Chen Hao's eyes were so bright that he couldn't open up close by. This stone was specially given to him by Chen's father before returning to China. He said it was given to him by the old man the night before he passed away, and instructed him to give it to Chen Hao as his eldest grandson. And the next day, the old man passed away. Chen Hao's aunt and uncle began to compete for a share of the family property. Chen Hao's father felt a chill. Coincidentally, Chen Hao was admitted to the Caixin Institute of Technology in the Northern Federation, and the domestic industry did not compete. He took a sum of money and overseas industries, and the whole family went to the Northern Federation. They didn't know where to put it later. This is still Chen Hao going back to his home country when he accidentally stumbled upon his belongings. Just as Chen Hao was desperately trying to open his eyes and see the object in his eyes, it suddenly turned into a beam of light and shot towards him, instantly entering his mind and disappearing. Confirm the bloodline, complete the confirmation, and start binding the system. System binding successful. P.S. This article is purely fictional. If there are any similarities, it is purely a coincidence. In addition, this is a parallel world. Please do not compare the similarities. There are some ink stains at the beginning, and the pace is a bit slow. If we get through it, it will be a normal principles essay. This book is written by Shuaba Technology Principal. The main focus is on daily school life, business, and technological research and development, covering all 3 aspects. Therefore, it is not just about writing about the principal's thesis on campus. Chapter 1 has been revised. The first 2,000 words were added on May 9th, so there is no mention of this chapter. Finally, welcome to Chen Hao's world. The author of Street Fighting, respected, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Not simple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Not simple, ding. The function of the prestigious school growth system is starting to load. Loading completed, please check with the host. What happened in this moment made Chen Hao, as a god of learning who had obtained 4 doctoral degrees in QIT, experience a rare short circuit in his life. However, he was ultimately a high-achieving graduate from Caixin Institute of Technology, and a few seconds later, Chen Hao had already constructed several possibilities in his mind. But the emergence of this system made Chen Hao feel a bit restless and couldn't help but start exploring. In my mind, a light screen suddenly appeared in front of me, as if projected out of thin air, but I couldn't touch it with my hands. My mind moved again, and the light screen disappeared. After trying several times, Chen Hao confirmed that this was a deliberate manipulation and began to understand the data on this screen. Name: Chen Hao, host, age 26, skill empty, item column empty, university held currently unavailable. There is not much information displayed, but it can be roughly understood. However, he was puzzled at the moment. What is the small meteorite-like stone that Grandpa transferred to him from his father? Why did a sudden mutation appear in front of my grandfather's tomb? Hello, how should I address you? Chen Hao spoke while observing the surroundings. The host can directly call me the system. A voice without any emotion sounded. This thing seemed to be in his mind, and there was no sound from the outside world. System. Chen Hao furrowed his brow slightly, but he was still not used to calling him that. What is that stone? Why did all of this happen? Can you explain it to me? Faced with Chen Hao's question, the system seemed to be no surprise. First, it reminded him, the host doesn't need to speak through their mouth, they can talk directly in their hearts. Okay, Chen Hao was startled and his eyes gradually narrowed. It seems that the level of civilization of this system is far beyond his imagination. It's a bit interesting. Then, the system slowly explained, the stone spoken by the host is the carrier of this system, and the reason why all of this happened is due to the trust of the previous host, Mr. Chen Qingxing. Listening to these words, Chen Hao was extremely shocked in his heart. After taking a few deep breaths, Chen Hao finally calmed down and asked, do you mean that my grandfather also had a system before? Yes. Chen Hao fell silent. An unknown truth was unraveled in front of him. His grandfather, Chen Qingxing, was once a farming man facing the yellow earth and facing the sky. Later, he wandered to Nanbo due to war, but in the end, he fought hard to become the sugar industry king of Nandangju. Many people believe that the situation creates heroes, and in the last century, danger and opportunity coexisted, making it normal for many heroes to appear. But no one expected that the true truth would be here. Why is my different from my grandfather? Chen Hao frowned. When the system loaded, he remembered the name displayed clearly. The growth system of famous schools. This clearly indicates that what Grandpa received is not the same system as what he currently has. The system is not fixed, and after each reload, it will transform into its final form based on the host's most urgent vision. Holy crap! Even Chen Hao, who was admired by the academic elites at Kaishan Institute of Technology, couldn't help but change his color at this moment. He finally understood. Before the system was loaded, he felt a bit sad and a thought flashed through his mind due to his observations at the University of Hong Kong. That is to expand and strengthen the American Chinese university that my grandfather left behind. Even surpassing his alma mater, Kaishan Institute of Technology, is not a bad thing. And this idea may fade away after leaving the American Chinese University and taking a nap. But he never expected that this sudden idea would trap him. Isn't this other vision better? For example, the big boss who punches Pengxin Limao and kicks Fanxin knocking on the door, becoming the world's #1 technology giant. Or come with a black technology system to make him the greatest scientist of this century, which perfectly aligns with his idea of returning to Dafeng to showcase his skills and serve his ancestors. When it comes to my grandfather's history of making a fortune, it seems that he initially worked as a worker in a sugar factory owned by a capitalist in Nanpo. That Grandpa's idea at the time. And then he thought of becoming the sugar industry king of the Southeast. All of this has come to fruition. Chen Hao is really a bit overwhelmed with tears and laughter. It's absolutely amazing, really amazing. Grandpa, how can I say hello to you? Why couldn't you have a bold idea at that time? With a heavy sigh, Chen Hao has accepted this fact, but he still has one more question. Looking at the tomb in front of him, Chen Hao was still puzzled. System, why did the mutation only appear in front of Grandpa's tomb? Because this is a startup program specified by the previous generation host, it must bring the system's carrier to the tomb to take effect, the system explained. Chen Hao raised his eyebrows. It's really fresh, can we still have this operation? Okay, I've already accepted reality. Chen Hao looked up at 45 degrees and let out a damn scream. At this moment, a flash of inspiration flashed, although he didn't read novels very much, after all, this thing could easily delay time. Besides, reading novels is not as interesting as writing code. But he still knows something called a beginner gift pack. The system is different from what he imagined. Chen Hao couldn't help but ask, "System, don't you have a beginner gift package?" The system replied, "Yes, but the host needs to have a university." Holding a university. Chen Hao was taken aback. Ding, task release. Hold all shares of Ihua University. Task reward. Unlocking follow-up functions, 1 beginner gift package, and 1 random skill. The rewards for this task are indeed rich, but the difficulty is also not small. Do you want to obtain all the shares? That's indeed a bit troublesome. Chen Hao's eyes were clear, although it could be a bit tricky, it was just that. Ihua University is my grandfather's hard work, and the word Ihua is taken from the last character of the names of Chen Hao, great-grandfather Chen Ruguang, and great-grandmother Xing Xiuhua. Ihua University, he must take it back. Who are you? What do you do? Just as Chen Hao was about to leave, a middle-aged man wearing a short-sleeved white shirt walked straight over. Wearing a box with black eyes, the Mediterranean on his head swayed slightly in the sunlight. Especially with a pair of lewd eyes, it doesn't seem like a serious person at first glance. Our university is open, can't I just walk in and take a stroll? Chen Hao regained his senses from the system and looked at the greasy man with a calm expression. This is a private university, we have to follow the rules here. The security guard, where are they all dead? The greasy man seemed to notice Chen Hao's gaze and was momentarily unhappy. After the greasy man finished yelling for a while, 2 disheveled security guards rushed over in a white school shuttle bus. Before the 2 security guards could speak, the greasy man scolded and said, "How do you do things? The school pays you wages, not to invite you to play with your phones. Hurry up and kick me out. Hands on. You can give it a try." Chen Hao looked calm as the 2 security guards approached, and even smiled as he watched the 3 of them. This laughter made the 3 of them feel a bit nervous. Although Chen Hao's clothes are in a casual style, they don't look cheap. Coupled with a calm demeanor, they give people a sense of confidence. "You. I don't care who you are, please leave our school." The greasy man sternly threatened, "The president of our American Chinese University Foundation is a member of the state legislature, it's not up to you, kid." After speaking, the round-eyed person glared and added, "I can tell you, this is the Law and Security Bureau nearby. The Ministry of Justice, and then what?" Chen Hao felt even more interesting. "What, then no, believe it or not, I'll let you enter the Bureau of Justice." Upon hearing the other person's words, Chen Hao smiled instead of getting angry and said, "Oh, that's so impressive. What kind of leader are you from the school? Do you still have this power?" "Zhao, the steward of the Ministry of Justice, just had dinner with me last night." The greasy man had his nose in the air and spoke confidently, as if he had regained his composure. "Hey, why am I telling you all this? Hurry up and get out of here, Xiaohu Xiaozhuang. What are you waiting for? Hey. Got it." The 2 security guards exclaimed, "This greasy guy has a big backstage. It's not something security guards like them can provoke." "You don't need to move, I'll go by myself," Chen Hao said. "But there's one thing he's quite curious about." Chen Hao turned his head and looked at the greasy man, curious, and asked, "What's your name?" "What's my name? It's none of your business. Get out of here now." The greasy man's eyelids twitched and he was a bit overwhelmed by the other person's aura, feeling a bit flustered in his heart. I asked your name. Chen Hao walked slowly towards Zhang Jingyao, almost every step putting more pressure on him. My name is Zhang Jingyao. Chen Hao's teasing made Zhang Jingyao feel a bit impatient and even annoyed. Where are these people coming from? Zhang Jingyao, right? The name sounds quite nice. Chen Hao smiled slightly at Zhang Jingyao and patted his shoulder as if he were a friend. Then, he got on the shuttle bus and smiled at the two security guards, saying, "Let's go. Just take me to the street side of the snack a little ahead of the school gate." But there was only Zhang Jingyao left in the same place, and as he watched the shuttle bus go away, his unease grew stronger. A while ago, the reporter just came to make a fuss, and the school even made news. Of course, it was negative news. Recently, there has been another conflict between the school and the students. Zhang Jingyao is afraid that Chen Hao is a journalist, but upon closer examination, he is afraid that the other party is even more terrifying than a journalist. It was Chen Hao sitting on the shuttle bus, feeling the heat waves blowing in front of him. I couldn't help but sigh. The summer on Baijiu Island is still so hot. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Anger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Anger on the snack street near Yihua University. Because it's summer vacation, only a few shops are open, and they still rely on nearby residents and takeout to make a living. Chen Ji braised flavor. Chen Hao stood outside this shop, and on the nearby street, this shop had the oldest sign. Hey, what do you want to eat? Order it yourself. Our braised food is the most authentic old shop near Guangda. Chen Hao just walked in and greeted the chubby boss wearing a blue striped T-shirt. Well, okay. Chen Hao responded and then picked a few to put in the basket. As he handed them to the boss, he casually asked, Hey boss, I think your sign is quite old. It should have been open for quite some time, right? That's right. We're an old store that opened here 12 years ago and sent away 11 batches of students, the boss said with a smile. Chen Hao continued to ask, Oh, that has been going on for so long, business must be very good. The boss shook his head and sighed, Hey, business is just like that. The first few years were quite good, but these years have been getting worse year by year. What is the reason? It's not the school. When the old headmaster was in, the rent was not expensive. He said to give us some profit, and then let us give students a little more profit. But now it's no good. Now the school is the daughter of the old headmaster, Chen Liebing, who has the final say. This person is really. The boss was about to roast when he stopped suddenly and took a look at Chen Hao. You can't be a reporter, can you? Journalist. Chen Hao felt a bit suspicious upon hearing this and made some guesses in his mind. He asked, Why do you ask that? Hi, it wasn't because of the commotion a while ago. The boss looked at Chen Hao and smiled, I don't think you have the same temperament as a journalist. A journalist wouldn't have your temperament. Chen Hao caught the key words and asked, Why did a journalist come to school a while ago? It seems to be idle, the boss said slowly. It's not that the school's management of students is too abnormal. Boys are not allowed to have long hair, girls are not allowed to wear short skirts, dye their hair, or fall in love. In school, when they see holding hands, they are punished, but Chen Liebing's son, Chen Ming, is still driving in the school to stop girls from teasing. Once, Chen Ming saw a short skirt that was sun-dried in a girl's dormitory building and confiscated it for a few days before returning it. The girl threw away the skirt directly. The school security guards are all the lackeys of Chen Liebing's mother and son, and they are arrogant and domineering in the school. This year's graduates, after obtaining their graduation certificates, directly fought with the security guards. Good guy, how miserable do you think this will be to bully students? Chen Hao's face really deteriorated with the words of the chubby boss. He gritted his teeth and asked, Is there anything else? Hi, there's a lot of black material here. It can't be said for 3 days and 3 nights. Last year, a teacher who resigned found that there was a problem with his file. Since he started working on campus, his file has been stored in the school's file room, not in the talent market. After several years of work, his teaching experience is still zero. Later, teachers from Chinese descent organized a rights protection campaign, but it failed. That summer, there were over 400 teachers who just resigned, and now the rest are some elderly people who are just slacking off and new graduates. Chen Hao clenched his fists tightly. He thought that Ihua University was already very bad in the hands of this cheap ant, but to his surprise, it was even worse than he had imagined. I used to think about whether to show some respect or not. After all, we are all family members, but now it seems that there is no need for that. Hey, all the money has been paid, why did you leave? As soon as the braised food arrived, Chen Hao stood up and left. After listening to the words of the chubby boss, he was really disgusted. In the car, Chen Hao sat in the driver's seat, took out his phone, and made several phone calls. Lying on the seat with eyes tightly closed. After a while, my heart was almost calm. I made a cross-ocean phone call. Hey, Lao Chen, you're not kind. It's been several days since you returned to China and you haven't contacted your buddies. You're so upset. However, at this moment, Chen Hao was not in the mood to joke with the other party and directly said, Mouse, I am currently on Baijiu Island. Do you have the phone numbers of well-known local accounting and detective firms? Chen Hao suppressed his anger and then continued, the faster, the better. The other side of the phone was taken aback and their tone became serious. Old Chen, what happened? Do you need any help? No need, I can solve some troublesome things. Okay, I'll contact the butler later and send it to you immediately. Okay, hang up first. Although Chen Hao grew up on Baijiu Island, he left for the Northern Federation after entering university and had little understanding of local social relations. But the other party is different. Chao Lihao, Chen Hao's alumnus and good friend, is the only son of the Glass King of Meizhou, and has great energy in Meizhou. Less than 5 minutes after Chen Hao hung up on the phone, a stranger called. Upon seeing that the place of ownership was local to Baijiu Island, Chen Hao probably guessed who the caller was. Hello, may I ask if this is Mr. Chen? I am the manager of Ernst Young's Baijiu Island office, and my surname is Liao. I just received a call from Mr. Chow asking if Mr. Chen can help. Ernst Young is one of the 4 major international accounting firms, and they are usually very proud. However, in front of the Chow family in Aizhou, of course, they are still not enough. This kid. Chen Hao smiled and naturally knew it was Chao Lihao's pen. Hello Manager Liao, I need you to conduct an asset audit and evaluation of Ihua University. Understood, we will process it more urgently and notify you immediately as soon as there is a result. After the call ended, another local call came in. Hello, Mr. Chen. We are. After the phone call, Chen Hao drove to the branch of Jianchuan Bank in Baijiu Island City. Before Chen Hao returned to his home country, his father returned a key and said that the old man had a safe in the bank on Baijiu Island. There is a coming-of-age gift reserved for him inside. Jianchuan Bank Baijiu Island Branch Business Department. The safe was opened, but inside the large cabinet lay a pile of paper quietly. Taking a look, Chen Hao was stunned. The things inside are amazing. Property deed, equity transfer agreement, and a substantial amount of funds. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Raising 3 billion funds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Raising 3 billion funds White Egret International Hotel in Baijiu Island City. In a small conference room. Chen Hao stood beside the French window, and beside him stood a middle-aged man in a decent suit. As for behind, there are still a few staff members decorating the meeting room. Chairman, we have already notified everyone. Are you all here? Li Jigua from Tianma Electronics said he is feeling unwell. Is this the only one? Chen Hao's eyes flickered slightly, not surprised. The person next to me is not just a simple staff member, but the general manager of the Egret International Hotel, Zhao Yu. The Egret International Hotel is one of the top 5-star hotels on Baijiu Island, with assets exceeding 23 billion yuan. But such a CEO treats Chen Hao with such humility. Because the Egret International Hotel is one of Chen Hao's grandfather Chen Qingxing's dark spots. Although Zhao Yu is the owner of the White Egret International Hotel, he is actually just a professional manager, and all the shares are now in the hands of Chen Hao. However, Zhao Yu is different from others. Everyone else is hired, and Zhao Yu's father, Zhao Xian, is a loyal subordinate of the Chen family who has followed Chen Qingxing and even blocked bullets. Yes, just one, everyone else clearly stated that they would arrive on time. Zhao Yu had already given the other person a cool song in his heart. Chen Hao's return to China this time came with great momentum, and it seemed that he was in a bad mood today. Li Zhiguo was almost hit by the gun. Okay, I understand. You can go down first. Chen Hao looked at the scenery outside the window and felt a bit lost in thought. As time passed by, more people arrived at the conference room. At exactly 8 p.m. Chen Hao, who was in the main position, looked at the almost fully occupied conference room and was basically satisfied. Chen Hao looked around and said, "Tonight is still our first time meeting. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Chen Hao, and although my grandfather passed away 8 years ago, all these shares have been transferred to my name. From now on, everyone will continue to operate as usual, and I will leave it to you to take care of openly. I won't get involved." Upon hearing Chen Hao's words, everyone present felt relieved. Someone was about to ask a question when Chen Hao's words rang out again. And everyone sitting here this year, starting from this year, the bonus will be increased by 20%. When we first meet, I'm not familiar with everyone. Let's introduce ourselves first. When Chen Hao said he wanted to increase his bonus, everyone was really overjoyed. After all, the maintenance fee given by Mr. Chen is not a small number. A 20% increase is really a lot. The atmosphere also rose after Chen Hao's words. Hello Director Chen, my name is Zhuang Kai and I am responsible for managing Rongwang Group. My name is Park Xian and I am currently in charge of EO Technology. I am Zhou Wu, and now I am from Punlu Port Management. After some introduction, Chen Hao also learned about the company that the 7 people were responsible for. There are 4 industries, and the remaining 3 are the internet and technology industries. As for the absent person in charge of Tianma Electronics, he is a leader in the electronics industry in the state, with a high status. But this does not affect Chen Hao's ability to deal with the other party. I'm calling everyone here today because there's something I need your help with. Chen Hao's words made the 7 people present look at each other. You look at me, I look at you, both feel that things are not simple. You should know that among the 8 companies left by Mr. Chen, 3 have a market value exceeding 10 billion yuan, and the remaining 5 have a market value of several billion yuan. Not to mention, none of these companies have gone public. If it goes public, that would be even worse. However, it is also normal. Chen Hao's grandfather, Chen Qingxing, is a famous overseas Chinese and has the title of the king of Manzhou sugar industry. However, since returning to China in the 1980s, the development center has shifted to the domestic market, and overseas industries have not been as good as before. Chen Dong, if there's anything you need, just let us know and we will do our best. The speaker's name is Yu Wendong, and he is in charge of Longda Industrial Group, which is also the strongest one present. Chen Hao looked at the crowd and said, "You should all know about Yihua University, right?" Of course, everyone at Yihua University knows that it is the most focused task for Mr. Chen after he returned to China. At first, in 983, Chen Hao's great-grandfather and great-grandmother returned to China to visit their families and witnessed the slow development of cultural and educational development in their hometown. The poor appearance of the mountainous area still remained unchanged. So Chen Hao's great-grandfather donated funds to build 2 primary schools and 1 middle school in his hometown within 3 years. On his deathbed in 1985, he reminded Chen Hao's grandfather to go back to his hometown to set up a school and help his hometown with education. This also led to the return of Mr. Chen to China in 988 to establish the Yihua University, which was the first private university in the country and claimed to become the Free University of the East. Previously, it developed quite well, but in recent years, all the people present were human spirits. I didn't interfere with the University of Hong Kong before because the old man had orders not to be exposed. But now the person in charge has become Chen Hao. The Yihua University founded by my grandfather is now being messed up by my aunt like this. If I don't take any action, it would be a pity for my grandfather's kindness to me. Mr. Chen had 2 sons and 1 daughter under his command, but he loved Chen Hao the most as his eldest grandson, who was always regarded as his successor. Therefore, these hidden industries were transferred under Chen Hao's name. I have asked Ernst Young to investigate, and now the value of the University of Hong Kong has dropped to 3 billion, so we need everyone's help with the funds needed for the acquisition. Judging from the inheritance that Grandpa secretly left for himself, 3 billion yuan can be obtained without the need for these people. But his purpose is naturally not just that simple. Where, Chendong said to hit the east, but you, will definitely not hit the west. Our Longda can produce 700 million yuan. Yu Wendong was the first to speak out. The other 6 people were full of moms selling lots in their hearts, but took a little slow and made Yu Wendong flatter them the first time. Anyway, they are all professional managers, and the company's money is not their own. How much they spend has nothing to do with themselves. Rongwang can also support 700 million. Zhuang Kai quickly stated. Both of these people are responsible for the industry, with terrifying capital flows. They are also the only 2 out of 8 companies with a market value exceeding 10 billion yuan. The remaining 5 people have thicker thighs than these 2 people, but they have also divided up the remaining 1.6 billion yuan. Our Penglu port has invested 500 million yuan. Our EO technology can provide 300 million. As for the only absent Tianma Electronics, it has been happily forgotten by everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 7 Old Foxes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. 7 Old Foxes. People go to empty houses. There are only Chen Hao and Zhao Yu left in the conference room. After the 3 billion yuan quota was divided, Chen Hao briefly communicated and exchanged ideas with the leaders before the meeting ended. What kind of person is Li Zhigua from Tianma Electronics? Chen Hao turned his office chair and gazed out the window at the darkness. Li Zhigua is a person with outstanding abilities. 10 years ago, Tianma Electronics was still a small company with a market value of 1 billion. But this person is good at using and strategizing, and also has great courage. He has invested a large amount of funds in independent innovation and recruited talents with high salaries. The company has developed rapidly in recent years, and its market value has exceeded 10 billion before going public. Moreover, Zhao Yu suddenly stopped and glanced at Chen Hao. Chen Hao said calmly, "Keep talking." Moreover, Li Zhigua has a good reputation for being a good person and has established many strong figures in both government and enterprise industries, with considerable energy. However, in the past 2 years, there has been some expansion. Then, Zhao Yu said anxiously, "Chairman, Li Zhigua holds a very high position in Tianma Electronics. If we were to move him, it would probably be quite troublesome." As a loyal follower of the Chen family, Zhao Yu thinks completely from Chen Hao's perspective. Li Zhigua is a person with full wings. If he is not fully prepared, he is really not easy to move. Don't worry, I won't fight unprepared battles. However, I have to move Li Zhigua, otherwise the other 7 old foxes will be difficult to manage. Chen Hao stood up and walked out. I will give him a choice. Be a professional manager honestly, or I'll let him fall as deep as he stands now. Let's continue to be professional managers. It depends on whether this kid can withstand us. Mr. Chen is a generation of heroes, and we admire and are willing to follow him. But it doesn't mean that any younger generation is giving orders to us. Lao Zhang is right, but let's take a look at how much ink this junior has in his stomach first. However, Lao Li is in trouble this time. It's a bit excessive to be absent directly. At least he needs to do his best on the surface. What else can we do? Let's take a look at the singing book while riding a donkey, just to see if this kid has any abilities. Although all of them are professional managers, Mr. Chen passed away 8 years ago and there has been no heir. There are many ambitious individuals who have directly replaced all the core departments of the company with their own confidants. It is not an exaggeration to say that the company has been sidelined. Although Chen Hao could exercise the power of the chairman to directly dismiss them, that would only result in obtaining a semi-disabled company. If they resign, taking away most of the backbone of the group is not a joke at all. But deep down, there's no need to wait for any heirs for 8 years, just transfer the company's assets directly. The reason is that among them, there is a hidden son left by the old man. The transfer of assets by the thief was fine, but once a large amount of assets were transferred, a warning letter and evidence of the transfer process appeared on his desk the next day. This scares them out. No matter how they change people, there will always be someone in the company with their eyes and ears. Mr. Chen naturally won't leave a big loophole, but no one knows who this person is. Zhao Yu from the Egret International Hotel is the most suspected. The few people present chatted casually, and most of them left. Only Zhuang Kai from Rongwan Group and Yu Wendong from Longda Industry remain. Zhuang Kai lit a cigarette, took a puff, and said, "Lao Yu, what do you think?" Yu Wendong shook his head and said calmly, "What do you think?" "My life, Yu Wendong, was saved by Mr. Chen. With my current status and wealth, I am already satisfied." "Hee, is that right?" Zhuang Kai smiled and took a puff of his cigarette ring. "Let me tell you, this Chen Dong is not easy. He is not an ordinary person who can become a prominent figure at Caitian Technology. I heard that the Northern Federation didn't want him to return home. If it weren't for the influence of the Chen family, he probably wouldn't have come back this time. Let's go, gather more next time." Zhuang Kai patted Yu Wendong's shoulder before leaving, then got into the car and disappeared into the darkness. Yu Wendong shook his head and remained silent, only glancing at the Egret Hotel as the car drove away. White Egret International Hotel Presidential Suite. This suite costs over 70,000 renminbi per night, but since Chen Hao returned, it has been closed to the public and has become his exclusive room. Although there are still several villas on Baijiu Island, living alone in a large villa of several hundred square meters is truly lonely. It's better to live here comfortably. There are dedicated staff serving laundry meals, and the nearby commercial district is very popular. It is much more popular than in the villa area. In the bathroom, Chen Hao is currently soaking in the bathtub. "Today is too exhausting, I need to relax and unwind for myself. Two important things at present, one is to subdue Li Zhigua and make the other 7 old foxes behave more honestly, another thing is to acquire shares of the Yihua Foundation from my own uncle and aunt, and regain control of Yihua University." Yihua University is a private university owned and controlled by the Yihua Foundation. According to a survey conducted by Ernst Young, Chen Hao's aunt Chen Liebing holds 45% of the foundation's shares, while his second uncle Chen Wenshi holds the most, accounting for 55%. However, due to the complexity of school affairs, Chen Hao, the second uncle, likes to enjoy it and leaves it directly to Chen Liebing to take care of, only enjoying the annual dividends of the foundation. So, the foundation's entry point is in the hands of this second uncle. Thinking about it, Chen Hao took out the phone placed next to him and made a call. "How's the investigation going?" "We are still tracking and investigating, and there has been some progress so far. Chen Hao closed his eyes and the pressure on his body finally eased slightly. Within 3 days, as long as I get what I want, the commission doubles, Chen Hao said calmly. Time cannot be dragged on any longer, as every day they hold the hands of Ihua University, his anger increases by 1 point. These days, through online searches, the 8 years of management at Ihua University have been a complete mess. Chen Hao couldn't help but pat the table while watching. The other party on the phone is the detective agency contacted by Chao Lihao. Nebula Detective Agency is the most well-known detective agency on Baijiu Island and even in the state of Azu, with top 10 capabilities, speed, and feedback. Of course, the price is also not low. Encountering such a generous employer, their voice instantly became enthusiastic. No problem. We are the most professional on Baijiu Island, 2 days is enough. P.S. New books are not easy, we need everyone's strong support. Thank you for the recommended votes cast by the book friends, One Qingshi, who will replace Yan Pai Chi Gu, and Dream Life. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Conversations with Uncle Air. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Conversations with Uncle Air 2 days later. A coffee shop on Baijiu Island. Chen Hao sat on the sofa chair, looking at the file bag on the table and couldn't help but smile. Sure enough, there's no man who doesn't cheat. Chen Hao, this second uncle, is a playboy, but unfortunately he married a female tiger and was eaten to death after marriage. On weekdays, if I secretly eat some fishy food and get caught by my second aunt, I will kneel on the washboard. Not to mention, my second uncle dares to raise a mistress outside, and he is so pregnant. This wave of operation really left Chen Hao dumbfounded. Is it okay to keep a mistress while being cleaned up for being promiscuous outside? Not to mention being pregnant. You should know that Aunt Air gave birth to a son and a daughter. If the mistress outside gave birth to a son, wouldn't she come to compete for family property? Moreover, Uncle Air doesn't know how to do business, and all the industries under his name are managed by Aunt Air. That's a strong woman, Chen Hao silently prayed for his second uncle. At this moment, the CAFA door was pushed open and a middle-aged man wearing a burgundy shirt and shorts entered. Although it looks quite old, it is well maintained and has a decent appearance. It feels a bit like the handsome uncle in the drama. When did Xiaohao return to his home country? I didn't even catch up with your second uncle in advance to help you clean up the dust. Chen Wenshi sat down and greeted the waiter, a cup of ice cream. Hi, I've been busy since returning to my home country. I'll contact my second uncle whenever I have time, Chen Hao replied with a smile. Have your parents' health been okay these years? Initially, due to property disputes, Chen Hao's father was angry and the whole family moved out to the Northern Federation. I haven't had much contact afterwards, but after all, I am my own brother and blood is thicker than water. Fortunately, my dad is quite old and has built a football field. Whenever he has free time, he goes to play football. That's great, exercising is good. Chen Erbo smiled and asked curiously, what does Xiaohao plan to do when he returns to China this time? Do you need Erbo's help? Chen Wenshi has heard of his eldest nephew. From childhood to adulthood, he has been extremely intelligent, and his academic performance is also excellent. In addition, he is obedient and sensible. He has always been loved by Mr. Chen and regarded as his successor. Of course, the Chen family's industries are not just visible, although some hidden Chen Wenshi has not been exposed to them, he still has heard of them. It is reasonable to say that after the death of Mr. Chen, the heir should be either the second son Chen Wenshi or the third son, which is Chen Hao's father Chen Wenshuan. Chen Wenshi has a rebellious and unstable personality, and is proficient in eating, drinking, prostitution, and gambling. And Chen Wenshuan, on the other hand, is capable and mature, but not ambitious enough. Only Chen Hao bears the closest resemblance to Mr. Chen, so the position of heir skipped the second generation and passed on to Chen Hao. Well, I'm currently researching the entrepreneurial environment in China. Let's wait until it's almost done before we start. However, it's not urgent. Uncle Heir, I'll show you something first. Chen Hao pushed the file bag on his desk forward. Chen Hao studied computer science at the top polytechnic university in the Greater Northern Federation. Over the course of 8 years, he has become an internationally renowned expert in the fields of artificial intelligence and network security. I originally planned to start a business when I returned to my home country, to make up for my shortcomings in these fields and catch up with the Great Northern Federation. But after that time at the American Chinese University, he changed his mind. The power of one person is ultimately limited, but if it is the power of a group of people, it will explode. He aims to build a world-class university and elevate Dafeng's education to the pinnacle of the world. And this premise is to regain control of the American Chinese University. Chen Wenshi is the key to it. What is it? Chen Wenshi curiously picked up the file bag on the table. Open, there are a few photos. As for the content above, after Chen Wenshi looked at it, his face instantly turned pale. This. Chen Wenshi looked up at his big nephew, feeling somewhat bewildered. Uncle Heir, I found this on the road when I came here. Fortunately, I checked it and you said, what if someone else picks it up? Xiao Hao. This. Chen Wenshi was momentarily lost in words, and he didn't understand what Chen Hao meant. Anyway, the mistress raised outside is still pregnant and has already undergone a color Doppler ultrasound. It's a baby boy. Never be discovered by your wife. Chen Hao blinked his eyes and looked at Chen Wenshi. Second uncle, can I do you a big favor? I'm facing some difficulties here. Do you think? Should I also help you? What's up, you say? Chen Wen's face changed, knowing that it wouldn't be a simple matter. However, he still underestimated Chen Hao's ideas. I want shares in the American Chinese University Foundation. When he said this, Chen Hao's eyes were full of sharpness and determination. This doesn't work. Upon hearing that Chen Hao was going to attend a Chinese university, Chen Wenshi was so scared that he almost jumped out of his seat. It's easy to say except for this, but this is really not good. He said there are more than 20,000 students at Ewha University, with a tuition fee of over 20,000, leaving only 20% to maintain the operation of the school. The remaining tuition fees go into the pockets of Chen Wenshi and Chen Libing. This income is very stable every year, and Chen Wenshi sincerely cannot bear to part with this hen that can lay golden eggs. Chen Hao continued, I'm not taking it for free. How about buying from Uncle Heir at the current valuation of Ewha University for 1.65 billion yuan? 1.65 billion. No, it's too little. How could the valuation be only 3 billion yuan, it used to be 7 billion yuan. Chen Wenshi shook his head quickly without letting go. Erbwa, do you also know that it used to be 7 billion? Chen Hao's face turned a bit dark. He really didn't want to get angry, but his emotions couldn't help but rise. But now, it has shrunk by more than half. Do you think Grandpa's spirit in heaven can still rest in peace? This is Grandpa's hard work for more than 20 years. Do you still have the courage to say that? Grandpa, if he sees what Ewha looks like now, he will definitely be infuriated by you. Chen Hao stood up and took the document bag from Chen Wenshi's hand, walking out without looking back. That's it for today. I can find this document, maybe even Aunt Heir can find it. As soon as these words came out, Chen Wenshi's whole body changed color. Just as Chen Hao was about to push the door open, he stood up and shouted at Chen Hao. Wait. I think this matter can still be discussed. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Investigation List. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Investigation List. Chen Hao looked at the share transfer agreement in front of him and couldn't help but laugh or cry. Perhaps because of those photos and the mother tiger at home, Chen Wenshi is even more anxious than Chen Hao. On the same day, they each brought their lawyers and completed the transfer of shares of the American China Foundation. Fortunately, Chen Hao's 3 billion yuan funds have already been received, so payment is not a problem. The control of the University of Hong Kong has been regained, and the progress has been completed by 55 out of 100. Chen Hao, who was in a good mood, called the hero of this incident. "Hello, I am very satisfied with your efficiency in handling affairs. Where are you located? I will give you the remaining commission and also assign you new tasks." "Well, good." Humming a tune, Chen Hao walked out the door. "On the way, I picked up 150,000 renminbi and put it in my handbag, then drove towards Cat Street. Cat Street is located on Dingyaozai Road in Baijiu Island City, near Baijiu Island University. It is a 100-meter-long small street with cats as its theme. The road is not wide, it is a relatively large uphill road, and because there are cat elements everywhere, it is called Cat Street. Chen Hao found a place to park his car and walked uphill, curiously looking around. There are cat-themed shops on both sides, selling various interesting cat-themed products inside, which is quite interesting. This place should have only emerged in recent years, right? In Chen Hao's memory, there was no such thing as Cat Street before. But there's nothing surprising either. Baijiu Island is a tourist city, and both domestic and international tourists love to visit here, so new popular check.in destinations often emerge. Keep walking until you reach the end of Cat Street, and Chen Hao's footsteps stop. Stopped at the entrance of a Zhang San Crazy Mang style milk tea shop. Is the detective agency located here? Chen Hao's face was a bit strange. Open your phone and confirm again that it is indeed 404 Dingyaozai Road. Welcome. Pushing open the door, there were not many customers in the store, 3 or 2 people sitting chatting. Chen Hao came to the front desk and said to the milk tea girl, "Find Lao He." The milk tea girl's expression remained unchanged, still enthusiastic. "Just push open the door ahead and walk forward," she said, following the direction pointed by the other party. "There is a closed door next to the front desk with a few words written on it. Internal workplace, customers are not allowed to enter." "It's quite interesting." Chen Hao pushed open the door. Inside was a studio, several tables, 2 computers, and a bed. There is not much space, but everything is available. The computer was on, but only a middle-aged man was typing on the keyboard in front of the screen. But when Chen Hao pushed the door in, the other party quickly stood up and shook hands. "Is that Chen Xiao? I'm He Xiangdong. It's a bit rudimentary here. If you have anything to do, you can call me directly. It's been a long and arduous journey. Hey, if it's okay, just pretend to take a walk." Chen Hao sat down and took out 150,000 yuan in cash from his bag, handing it to the other person. "This is..." He Xiangdong swallowed his saliva and took a calculation. It turned out to be 150,000 yuan. To Chen Hao's surprise, the other party returned a portion of the money. "No, no, 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 the agreed amount of 50,000 yuan. I paid a deposit of 50,000 yuan earlier, and if the final payment is double, it's only 100,000 yuan. There's too much here." Chen Hao smiled and didn't accept the money. "The remaining 50,000 yuan can be considered as a tip for you. I am very satisfied with what you did this time. This..." He Xiangdong hesitated for a moment before finally accepting it. "There's no way, the other party has given too much." Chen Hao asked eagerly, "How is Chen Liebing's investigation going?" Because of seizing Chen Wenshi's leverage, the acquisition of shares in the foundation went very smoothly. If it were here with Chen Liebing, it would be too smooth. He Xiangdong scratched his head and found it difficult to speak up. There hasn't been much progress with Chen Liebing. Although Chen Liebing's mother and son have done a lot of evil, there hasn't been much major problem and there hasn't been a breakthrough yet. Upon hearing the other party's response, Chen Hao's expectations fell through. It seemed that Plan A was not feasible and he had to execute Plan B. Chen Hao does not engage in unprepared battles. Since he is ready to take action, he will not only do one, but also need to work on several more plans to ensure the most secure outcome. It's okay, let's pause the investigation at Chen Liebing's place. Chen Hao frowned and asked, do you have paper and pens here? Yes, here. He Xiangdong quickly picked up the paper and pen on the table and handed it to Chen Hao. Tianma Electronics. Li Jigua. Longda Industry. Lin Wendong. Halfway through Chen Hao's writing, there was a sound of pushing the door from behind. When he turned his head, he saw that the milk tea girl in front came in carrying 2 cups of milk tea. Please have some milk tea, this is our signature milk tea. The milk tea girl smiled sweetly and placed the milk tea on the tables of Chen Hao and He Xiangdong, respectively. Then he said to He Xiangdong, Dad, then I'll go out. As the other party left, Chen Hao curiously asked, what is this? Well, it's my daughter. She just graduated from college and helped out in the store, He Xiangdong explained. However, Chen Hao could see an unusual aura in the other person's eyes. But these are not related to Chen Hao, and Chen Hao has no intention of caring. Hand the paper with the written name to the other person, stand up, and say, next, investigate the 8 people on this, especially Li Jigua. We need to focus on investigating them. What are the main areas of investigation? He Xiangdong looked at the characters on the list and his head suddenly became big. These were all business tycoons from Baijiu Island, and each one was not simple. The more detailed, the better. I need to know the other party's detailed resume, social relationships, and reputation within the company. He Xiangdong, who is listening on the side, is about to explode. As a gossip paparazzi investigating romantic relationships, am I going to transform into a commercial spy now? He Xiangdong thought of his precious daughter outside and gritted his teeth, decisively answering, I think these 8 people are fine. But give me some time, if I'm too urgent, I really can't complete it. No problem, this is not urgent. Chen Hao is currently busy with the affairs of the American Chinese University, and as for these industries, they are not urgent for the time being. After all, I am still a young man. To deal with these 8 old foxes, I need to understand their intelligence. Before leaving, Chen Hao thought of another person. The footsteps suddenly stopped, revealing a playful smile. Turning to He Xiangdong, he added. Oh, by the way, add another person inside. He Xiangdong looked up and asked, who? White Egret International Hotel Zhaoyu. P.S. Thank you for the recommended votes from Book Friends, Dream Life, In, Balala Energy Little Magic Immortal, and Junyan June. During the new book period, I hope everyone has the votes to vote. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Recovery of Chinese University, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Recovery of Chinese University, Part 1, How are everything prepared? Well, that's good. Chen Hao put down his phone and sat in the hotel room, looking at the bustling traffic outside the window. He whispered to himself, the chess pieces are all in place, just wait until tomorrow to become the general. Hee. A figure flashed through Chen Hao's mind, and he sneered. The next morning, the summer sunshine gradually jumped into the room from outside the window and continued to extend inward. Chen Hao, who had forgotten to pull the curtains and was exposed to the sunlight, woke up in a daze. Sitting up from the bed, eyes closed, left hand caressing the back of the head, gently shaking it a few times. It has been several days since Chen Hao returned from Cat Street, but these days he has not been idle and has been running around many places without stopping. As for the reason, of course, it is to improve Plan B. After the drowsiness dissipated a bit, Chen Hao leaned over and picked up the internal phone from the side of the bed. He called the front desk and said, "Hey, bring me breakfast to my room in half an hour." Milk needs to be warm, everything else needs to be. After a moment of command, Chen Hao yawned and stood up. Wash and take a shower, about half an hour is just right. Feeling tired, Chen Hao furrowed his brows and said, "Hiss, it seems we need to do a SPA later to relieve fatigue. Time flies by in an instant, and it's already noon." Upon arriving at the entrance of the Yihua University again, Chen Hao was filled with emotions. But this time, it's different from last time. This time, he is not alone. Let's go. Chen Hao's gaze swept over the stone tablet at the door, causing a silent pain in his heart. Behind him were 5 or 6 professionals wearing suits and uniforms, all with bags twisted in their hands. At the security room of the east gate of Yihua University, 2 security guards were sweating and using walkie-talkies to call for support. Chen Hao and his group came with a fierce force, instantly frightening the security guards. "I thought it was a gangster who came to smash the scene. Who dare to come to school and cause trouble?" Just as the 2 security guards were watching Chen Hao and his group about to step into the school gate, a very fast shuttle bus drove over from the campus. A greasy man got off the car, and behind him were 4 young people wearing security uniforms. Of course, the greasy man was Zhang Jingyao. As soon as he got off the car, the 2 frogs saw that Chen Hao, who had come last week, was the one leading the way, and their hearts were filled with a thud. Chen Hao has left a significant impression on him. With such a refined young man, he must have had a good start. But today, is this necessary? Zhang Jingyao also has a bit of a headache, as the director of the Academic Affairs Office. During the summer vacation, there is no need to come to school every day. Generally, you can come once or twice a week to handle affairs. But I never expected to meet this person every time I come to school. Zhang Jingyao gritted his head and stepped forward, saying, "What's going on? I'll tell you, if you dare to cause trouble, we'll take legal action." But looking back, this is in school, my own territory, with more than a dozen security guards, and I'm afraid these few people won't succeed. Zhang Jingyao secretly glanced at the people behind Chen Hao, who looked like white-collar workers and didn't look like any suit thugs. In an instant, he was full of confidence and waved his hand forward with a fierce tone. "Hurry up and get out. Otherwise, you'll see." 4 security guards behind him and 2 security guards next to him, looking at Zhang Jingyao's imposing appearance, instantly gained support and were all ready to fight. "Tsk tisk, he's really a good dog, but unfortunately I don't have a dog." Chen Haosi was not afraid, just shook her head with a hint of regret. Upon hearing the other person scold him as a dog, Zhang Jingyao, who had an inherently crooked nature, instantly exploded, panting through his nostrils and saying, "Kid, I tell you, your path is narrow. Call me I'll take responsibility if anything happens." Zhang Jingyao waved his hand and said to the security guards, "Look at me, I'll look at you." Surprisingly, no one came up first. Chen Hao looked at Zhang Jingyao with interest and said, "Are you responsible for what happened? Are you sure you're responsible?" Chen Hao hasn't forgotten about the person in front of him these days. Even without the need for a detective agency to investigate, search engines can easily find it. This person has a decent educational background, and has been studying at Baijiu Island University from Tiangon to PhD. After graduation, he stayed at this university to continue his postdoctoral studies and soon became a lecturer. Until a few years ago, he was exposed online for molesting students. Under public pressure, Baijiu Island University dismissed this person. But just such a person with corrupt professional ethics was recruited by Chen Liebing to become the director of the Academic Affairs Office. Chen Hao really has no hope for his own aunt anymore. After taking charge of Yihua University, be sure to clean up the debris in the school first. These slag must be removed. Don't do anything, there's a misunderstanding. Just as Zhang Jingyao was about to personally go to battle, a red cart stopped. Next comes a young woman dressed beautifully. The woman ran over as soon as she parked the car, fearing that the two groups might have a conflict. Seeing the person getting off the car, Zhang Jingyao recognized him at a glance and quickly stepped forward, flattering him, saying, "Ah, Assistant Deng, why bother you to come all the way? Just call me if you have anything to do." Although this woman is an assistant, she is not something that Zhang Jingyao can afford to offend. The other party is the assistant of Chen Liebing, the chairman of the American China Foundation, with considerable power, at least more than enough to deal with Zhang Jingyao. However, Zhang Jingyao's enthusiasm caught the air. As soon as the other party got off the car, they headed straight for Chen Hao and said humbly, "Chen Dong, welcome back. I am Deng Hui, Chen Dong's assistant. You can call me Xiao Deng." Upon hearing Deng Hui's words, Zhang Jingyao instantly fell into a pit of fire, sweat drenching his back. After swallowing a ball of saliva, he trembled and asked Julie, "Assistant Deng, what are you calling him?" "Of course it's Chen Dong." Deng Hui had already silently mourned Zhang Jingyao in her heart. This is Chen Dong's biological nephew, and also the grandson that the old man values the most. Upon hearing Deng Hui's words, Zhang Jingyao's heart instantly turned to ashes. My head suddenly spun around and I sat down on the ground. P.S. The author of Poker Street is asking for a ticket. I didn't even have a recommended ticket today, so I was crying. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Recovery of Chinese University, Central. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Recovery of Chinese University, Central. Zhang Jingyao is just a minor figure, and Chen Hao did not take it to heart. It is inevitable to deal with him, and he cannot tolerate such a person without character. Assistant Deng, who was leading the way, stopped at the entrance of a conference room and said, "Chairman, Director Chen is waiting for you in the conference room." Chen Hao pushed open the door and directly led a group of people inside. Chen Liebing, who was sitting inside, frowned as she watched Chen Hao's imposing voice rise. "Xiao Hao, didn't you say on the phone that you had something to talk about? Why are you bringing so many people?" Chen Liebing was a bit unhappy, and had no sense of closeness towards her nephew who had just returned to China after 8 years of absence. "Of course, there's something to talk about, that's why I brought so many people." Because it was not known beforehand that Chen Hao would bring someone, Chen Liebing arranged a small conference room with about a dozen seats. Chen Hao picked a seat directly facing Chen Liebing. With a smile on his face, he looked harmless to humans and animals. Along the way, Chen Hao saw everything in his eyes. The school buildings outside were so dilapidated, but this Yihua building, also known as the Comprehensive Office Building. The interior decoration equipment is so luxurious, completely different from the teaching and dormitory buildings. Faced with an unexpected guest, Chen Liebing lost her patience and asked coldly, "What's up? Let's leave after we finish speaking. You're not welcome here. Don't welcome me." Chen Hao laughed happily as he listened, shook his head, and sighed. "My dear aunt, don't you think I'm unprepared for coming this time?" "What do you mean?" Chen Liebing felt a hint of unease as she listened to the other person's words. "This is Xiao Xian from Ernst Young, give her the documents." Chen Hao hugged Chen Liebing with both hands, and he had already shown patience. After Chen Hao finished speaking, a young man with golden glasses walked out from behind, took a few steps forward, and handed a document to Chen Liebing from his bag. "This is our Ernst Young audit evaluation of the existing assets of Yihua University." Ernst Young is one of the top 4 international accounting firms, and Chen Liebing occasionally spends money dealing with them, so she naturally knows their strengths. But when she saw the content in the file, she couldn't hold back her anger. A valuation of 3 billion yuan. What international joke. I seriously doubt your professional level at Ernst Young now. It's even less than doubling it. I'm sorry, our Ernst Young audit estimate is the most authoritative in the industry. Regarding Chen Liebing's anger, the golden glasses man remained calm and smiled, adding, and this valuation mainly takes into account the influence of Mr. Chen Qingxing. The meaning of the words is that if it weren't for the influence of Mr. Chen, it would be over 3 billion. Chen Liebing ignored the man with golden glasses and stared at Chen Hao intently. Chen Hao, I'm asking you, what do you mean? His face was torn open, and he called out his name directly. What am I doing? Chen Hao smiled, squinted his eyes, and said, I want to attend a Chinese university. Chen Liebing refused without hesitation, impossible, absolutely impossible. Really? Do you know who the people behind me are? Chen Hao smiled calmly and said, these are lawyers from Hongfa Law Firm. They just helped me handle a contract yesterday. Do you want to know what kind of contract it is? Impossible. Chen Liebing's pupils narrowed as she understood what the other person was trying to say, but she still felt lucky and called her second brother Chen Wenshi. Do. The phone is connected. Just as the other side was connected, Chen Wenshi's apologizing voice came from his phone. Sister, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it either. Waste. Chen Liebing instantly understood and cut off the phone. Her face was as cold as frost, and she looked at the big nephew with a hee-hee sound before saying. He's really my good nephew. He sent a generous gift to your aunt when he returned from the Great Northern Federation. Faced with Chen Liebing's mockery, Chen Hao ignored it and calmly recounted a fact. Grandpa had just passed away, and you and your second uncle began to compete for a share of the property. Now, they are still wasting Grandpa's most important efforts like this. Chen Hao stood up directly and said, I called you auntie because I am polite and cultured. But what I want to tell you is that I want to sign up for this Chinese-American foundation. Chen Hao ignored Chen Liebing's pale face and glanced at the time on his phone. It happened to be 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. What happened at 1:30? What is this about the foundation we just discussed? Just as everyone was puzzled, a phone rang. It's for Chen Liebing. Chen Liebing glanced at the caller, who was her subordinate, Hu Tianguang, the general manager of Xingdong Group. Chen Dong, it's not good. Our group has been targeted in the stock market, and the stock price fell by 2% just as it opened. What? 2%? What's going on? Chen Liebing's hand shook slightly as she held her phone. In addition to holding shares in the Yihua Foundation, Chen Liebing also has several companies, the largest of which is the Xingdong Group, a listed company with a market value of over 10 billion yuan. 2% can instantly evaporate nearly 200 million yuan. Chen Dong has already dropped by 5%. Came bad news again from the phone conversation, steady. How much current working capital does the group have? Mobilize funds to protect the market. Chen Liebing pretended to be calm and ordered. But the other party remained silent for a long time, and when Chen Liebing was about to start cursing, a tired voice finally came through. Chen Dong, there's no need to protect the plate. It's already below the limit. Has it hit the limit? Chen Liebing fell into a daze. The limit was only 10% lower, and the market value instantly evaporated by more than 1 billion yuan. At the thought of this money, Chen Liebing felt heartbroken and was dripping blood. But the bad news didn't end, and Deng Hui, who was waiting outside, rushed in. Chen Dong, it's not good. Mr. Zhang from Jinxiu Group called, the group stock market has been sniped and has fallen below the limit. The suppliers of Taichu Supermarket have also collectively cut off supply. If it is not resolved, the supermarket will have no stock available tomorrow. There is also Xiaoxi Anjuan Real Estate, where the bidding qualification for the number 3 plot in the high-tech zone has been cancelled. There are several departments including the fire department, tax department, and supervision department that need to conduct on-site inspections. P.S. Seeking recommended tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Recovery of the Chinese University, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Recovery of the Chinese University, Part 2. When Deng Hui finished speaking, Chen Liebing's face turned extremely pale. The industry under Chen Liebing's umbrella has the largest assets in Xingdong Group, followed by Jinxiu Group, and the rest are all small-scale industries. The value of the Yihua Foundation can only rank third. But the advantage lies in stable profits and reasonable tax avoidance. It is absolutely impossible for her to sell this share before. But now, it's not impossible to talk about it. Chen Hao, you have really gone too far. After all, we are all a family. Chen Liebing's tone changed from her previous tough tone. Auntie, of course we are a family, right? Chen Hao smiled slightly. Then call a lawyer over. I brought a lawyer today to solve the problem on site. Chen Liebing also knows that if the foundation's problems are not solved today, the other party will not let go. After making a phone call, Chen Liebing put away her disdain and looked at Chen Hao seriously, exclaiming with emotion. When you were still studying abroad, you were just a little kid. Now you're amazing. You've grown up and your skills are even stronger than your aunt's. Did you also get the shares from your second uncle like this? Chen Liebing was a bit confused, if what Chen Wenshi encountered was the same as today. At least she will hear a little wind, but not at all. Of course not, Uncle Heir's place is for peace negotiations, Chen Hao smiled. He naturally wouldn't be foolish enough to tell the other person all of this. As for how the other person guessed, it has nothing to do with him. Today's sniping at Chen Liebing's industries is not easy. Except for the 7 subordinate enterprises that are more convenient for giving orders, the others all visited many of Grandpa's friends under the name of Mr. Chen, including those in the government and business sectors. Mr. Chen only passed away 8 years ago, and as one of the former representatives of returning overseas Chinese, his influence remains significant. In order to complete all of this, he ran for several days and spent a lot of effort. Chen Liebing picked up the previous valuation document from Ernst Young and carefully reviewed it this time. After a moment, I sighed and finally agreed to the valuation above. 3 billion, right? Then what I have is also worth 1.35 billion. Let's start when my lawyer arrives later. The valuation of 3 billion is indeed lower than before. But based on current calculations, it's still a bit inflated. Over the years of turmoil, Chen Liebing has been pretending to be confused, but she is not foolish. For the current situation of American Chinese universities, it can be considered a thorny existence that can damage their reputation at any time. Selling now can be considered a timely stop-loss. But Chen Hao won't let her achieve her wish. As soon as Chen Hao thought about how Yihua University was being manipulated by the other party, he felt angry in his heart. No, it's 1.3 billion now, Chen Hao said with a smile on his face. I'm at least your aunt. Chen Liebing's face turned ugly, and her eyes began to bleed as she stared at Chen Hao. Chen Hao smiled but remained silent. 1.2 billion. Chen Liebing closed her eyes, took a deep breath, opened it, and said, "Great, I'll sell it." She believes that if we keep talking, this nephew will continue to lower the price. Well, we'll wait for your lawyer to arrive now. Chen Hao is not in a hurry at all, it's the other party who should be in a hurry now. Faced with Chen Hao's sniper attack, Chen Liebing could only admit defeat and had no ability to resist. Chen Liebing looked deeply at Chen Hao, as if she had hatred. For Chen Hao, he doesn't care at all. As long as he remains strong, he will never give Chen Liebing a chance to retaliate. After waiting for less than half an hour, the lawyer rushed and finally arrived. The contract was signed smoothly, and Chen Hao successfully obtained the foundation shares in Chen Liebing's hands for 1.2 billion yuan. In addition, with the acquisition from Uncle Heir, all the equity of the foundation is in Chen Hao's hands. Starting from this day, the foundation will be fully owned by Chen Hao. Congratulations to the protagonist for completing the task. The system's subsequent functions have been activated, and you will receive a beginner gift pack and a random skill. Oh, the task has finally been completed. Chen Hao looked up with joy and quickly looked up new features. System, view properties. Name. Chen Hao, host, age. 26 skill. Empty item list. Beginner gift pack *1, random skill *1 university held. Yihua University School Construction Funds. 100 million yuan school buildings. None. Just as Chen Hao was about to inquire about new features from the system, the sound of the system rang out again. New school ranking function added, synchronized modification in the real world. Ranking function. What does it mean? However, Chen Hao immediately knew the answer to this question. Because a pop-up notification appeared on his phone, today's update on the World University Rankings. Jingqing University has hired 2 new academicians from the Academy of Sciences, and the ranking within the university has increased by 5 places. Click in and take a look. It is a media analysis of today's dynamic hot topics at Jingqing University, and provides detailed information on Jingqing University's strength, along with a real-time updated World University ranking. On this ranking list, there is a ranking of all universities in the world, and even a search box for searching. Chen Hao curiously entered the 4 words Yihua University. But when he saw the search results, he was stunned. P.S. I am looking for recommended tickets for a new book. Also, thank you to my book friends for their recommended tickets for Dream Life, Love My Book Forever, and Deeply Buried Mike Xiangu. Thank you. End of this chapter.